ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So tomorrow is Sri Ram Navami, Sri Ramchandra's appearance day. Therefore, today we decided to discuss about Lord Ramchandra, his pastime and the purpose of his appearance. In India, everyone knows Ramayana. I don't know about now, but when I was young, I used to hear Ramayana from the elders of the family. And I remember there used to be a big Ramayana, fat and big one, with many pictures. Although I couldn't read at that time, I used to go through those pictures. And just by seeing the pictures and hearing those stories, I became acquainted with Ramayana and also Mahabharata from a childhood. Maybe time has changed now in last 50-60 years, but it is very important that we grow up with these understanding of the scriptures. And it's very interesting actually, I remember, I think it's with everybody. Everybody likes to hear stories, especially children. Love to hear stories. And these are the most fascinating stories actually. Ramayana and Mahabharata, although they are scriptures, but these scriptures are presented in such a way that everybody becomes fascinated to hear that. After all, what is scriptures? The scriptures is Krishna Katha, the activities about the Supreme Personality of God. Jai Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai. Jai Shri Radha Madan Mohan Lalita Vishakha Devi ki Jai. Jai Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Ramchandra ki Jai. And also when I was young, one very popular song was Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram. That was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi. He added a few things on his own, but the general song is Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, Patita Pavana Sita Ram. Then he added things like Ishwara Allah Tere Naam Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. It's alright, it's nothing wrong. It's true, Ishwar and Allah is your name. And Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. Give everybody the right kind of consciousness. And what is the benefit of hearing these stories from childhood? One thing is that we get a very clear understanding who is God. When I reflect about my past, then I can see that when I was young, I did not have any confusion or any doubt in my mind that Ramchandra and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The trouble started when I grew up and started to read different other books on Vedic philosophy and culture. And there all these misconceptions started to creep in. That misconception of impersonalism. And it is so expertly presented that it actually bewilders. Even though one may have a deep-rooted faith, it bewilders one because one begins to think that maybe this is true. And what is the misconception? Ultimately, the absolute, supreme absolute is Brahman. And these incarnations are actually the Brahma's manifestation in the mode of goodness. Brahma's manifestation in the mode of goodness in the material nature are the incarnations. And Brahma's manifestation in the mode of passion and ignorance are the jivas. So jiva, incarnations and Brahman. When as long as they are in the mode of ignorance and passion, they are jivas. When they transcend the mode of ignorance and passion, they become God. And when they transcend, when they are influenced by the mode of goodness, this is God. And when they transcend even the mode of goodness and go beyond material nature, it is Brahman. Isn't it quite convincing? Or I would say, isn't it quite bewildering? It's bewilderingly convincing. Or convincingly bewildering. We are actually very fortunate that we came across Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. That's why all it needed is just to come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books. I got the Nectar of Devotion. I was very fortunate to get the Nectar of Devotion. And from the very first page, what did I learn? What did I understand? Krishna is God. And what is liberation? There are 5 kinds of liberation. The Mayavadis talk about liberation, but here Prabhupada gives a very clear concept of liberation. Mayavadis just speak of liberation and they say ultimate goal of life is to achieve liberation, to attain liberation. Mukti, moksha. And their understanding of mukti or liberation is to merge in Brahman. Quite a difficult job, because before you get liberated, you have to become God. You're a jiva because you're in the mode of ignorance and passion. You transcend the mode of ignorance and passion and come to the mode of goodness, then you'll become God. So, according to these Mayavadis, all the sannyasis are God, Narayan. Because they have transcended the mode of passion and ignorance and they have come to the mode of goodness. So they are God. Narayan. Of course, there is another kind of Mayavadis. They say not only the people in the mode of goodness are God, but in order to become God, you can develop another quality. That is, you have to become poor. Then you'll become God. Daridra Narayan. So become poor, you will become God. And if you are rich, you are a demon. But at the same time, they go to the rich people with a begging bowl and say, give us some money so that we can enjoy. So India is actually in a very, very confused state as far as the spiritual understanding goes. But Srila Prabhupada, right at the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, pointed out, Krishna is God. And at least with me, it just dawned at that time. Wow, I knew it all this while. I knew it all this while. At least from my childhood, I knew that Krishna is God. Only when I grew up, I became confused. The contaminating effect of Mayavad doctrines. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned, Mayavadir bhashya shunile hoy sarvanash. Don't listen to the Mayavadi's commentaries. Because if you listen to the Mayavadi's commentaries, then everything will be lost. You'll be doomed. Sarvanash. Anyway, we are very fortunate that we came across Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. Srila Prabhupada gave us everything, a perfect understanding. Sometimes people think, I saw myself in Bombay when Prabhupada was giving the lecture in Cross Maidan in 1977. One person was very vehemently challenging Prabhupada. That why you worship only Krishna, why don't you worship Ram? Prabhupada explained, no, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. So we are worshipping Ram. Who says we don't worship Ram? So the man kept on insisting. Those days in Bombay Temple was not complete. And we didn't have the deities of Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, which we have now. So this person was challenging, why don't you worship Ram? Why do you worship only Krishna, Radha Krishna? But the thing is, we are not only devotees of Krishna, we are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all His incarnations. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishthan Nana Avataram Akarud Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumanjo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishthan. Ramchandra, Ram, Adi Murtishu, all these incarnations are the expansions of Krishna. Kala Niyamena Tishthan. Nana Avataram Akarod. He expanded himself into many, many incarnations. Nana Avataram Akarod. Bhuvaneshu. In these incarnations he descends to this material nature. But Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumanjo. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the original Personality of Godhead. Deeparchireva hi dasantaram apupetya deepayate vibrita hetu samana dharma. Just as many lamps are lit from one original lamp, but after the lamps are lit, they give out the same amount of light and heat. They're equal in all respects. But still, the original lamp from which all the other lamps were lit is the original lamp. So that is how Krishna is different from the incarnation. He's not different, he's same personality. There is no difference between Krishna and his incarnation. In this respect, Prabhupada gives the example that a high court judge, in the high court he is seen, in the court he is seen in a certain way. He is addressed in a certain way. My Lord, Your Honor. And everyone is very respectful towards him. Then he goes to his club after the court. In the club, his other compatriots, his other friends treat him in some other way. They don't treat him in the same way as he is treated in the court. And then he goes home. And there they treat him, his mother, his father, his wife, his children, they treat him in another way. So the treatment and appearance and even the names may differ in different places, but it is the same personality. In the court he is addressed as my Lord. In the club, by his friends and other acquaintances, he is addressed as, oh, Justice so and so. Justice. Or they sometimes may even call him by his name. But at home, does anyone call him my Lord? At home, does anyone call him Justice? At home, hey Munna, the father, mother calling him. His wife is calling him another way. His children are calling him Daddy, Daddy, or Pitaji, Abba. So the same personality in three different places appears to be in three different ways. But he is the same personality. Now, will anybody say that the person in the court is different from the person in the club? Or person in the club is different from the person at home? No. So similarly, it's the same personality manifests himself in different ways. And there are two differences that we can consider. One is, he is the original personality of Godhead, from whom he is the original, and he expands in his swamsa. Similar expansion. He himself expands. Krishna expands to Balaram. Balaram expands to Sankarshan. Sankarshan expands to Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu expands to Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Garbhodakshayi Vishnu expands to Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. Expands into the super soul. Expands into different incarnations. Same personality. Is the super soul in the heart of every living entity different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. Same personality. That is what we have to understand. And when you understand that, then everything will become clear. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is giving us. He is giving us the perfect understanding. Who is God? Who is God? Is he an expansion of or manifestation of Brahma Jyoti in a mode of goodness? No. Rather, Brahma Jyoti is his bodily effulgence. Brahma Jyoti is his bodily effulgence. Brahma Jyoti is Brahma, but he is the origin of Brahma. Brahmano hi pratisthaham. Pratishtha, he is the origin from whom Brahma actually becomes manifest. Yes, Brahman is there, but he is Parabrahma. He is the supreme Brahma. So why get stuck with just Brahma? Go into Parabrahma. Brahma is the energy He is the energetic. Can energy exist without energetic? No. Energy may be without form, but energetic is a person, is with form. Very, very clear and elaborate understanding that we have. But why does he come? He comes to display, he comes to accomplish certain purpose. In this material nature, when there is a chaotic situation is created, when the law and order is broken, then he comes to establish the law and order. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharatah abhuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamah. What is dharma? Dharma is the law and order. Dharma is law. Law is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu shakshad bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is the law given by the Lord. And when there is a law, that law must be abided by. Then only there will be peaceful situation in the society. When people abide by law, then what happens? Then everything goes perfectly. But when people break the law and order, then what happens? There will be chaos. Like we see that in Indian cities, like especially in cities like Calcutta. For example, the traffic is meant to go in a certain way, in certain direction. If the traffic flows in that direction, then there won't be any problem. All the cars can move at a very high speed. But if the traffic doesn't follow the law, then what happens? The traffic rule is when it's a red light, the cars must stop. When there is green light, the cars can go. But if they don't follow this law, like people say, well, I don't care whether it's a red light or green light, I need to go, so let me go. But what will happen? This goes through red light and somebody comes from the other road and bang, accident. Or at least, if not accident, a traffic jam. The green light, the road on the green light, the cars are supposed to move, and the one from the red light just comes in the middle of the road. At least if there is no accident, it will stop, and then what will happen? All the other cars will get stuck. Actually, we can see the result of not abiding by the law and order, especially in countries like India. Democracy has done one thing. Everybody is a king, everybody is a kingmaker, everybody is a lawmaker, so there is no need to abide by the law. Even the police don't abide by the law. And the result is chaos. Now that is the meaning of dharmasya glani. When the people don't abide by the law and order, there is chaos. And then Krishna has to come. Dharma samsthapanarthaya. In order to establish dharma, in order to establish the law and order, he has to come. Sambhavami yuge yuge. And he came, in Treta Yuga, he came as Lord Ramchandra. He appeared in the Raghuvamsa. He appeared in the Raghuvamsa. Therefore, he is known as Raghupati, as we sing, saying Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, or Raghuveer, or Raghava. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Lalita Vishakha Devi ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Ramchandra ki Jai. So Shri Ramchandra appeared. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he comes. Sometimes he takes birth, especially when he performs his pastimes as a human being. He takes birth because for human being to come here has to take birth. But not that he has to always take birth. Sometimes he comes as Nrisinghadev. Did he born from father and mother? No. Where did he come from? He came from a pillar. Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad, where is your Hari? Where is your Narayan? Prahlad said, Hari is everywhere. Then Hiranyakashipu asked, is your Hari there in this pillar? He said, yes, he is in this pillar also. So Hiranyakashipu immediately went and with his bare hand, he just struck the pillar and the pillar collapsed, broke. It's a stone pillar, huge, massive pillar. That shows how powerful he was. But then from the pillar, a very strange personality appeared, who had the head of a lion and the body of a man. Then some other times also the Lord appears he appeared from the nostril of Brahma. One day from the nostril of Brahma, a small little boar came out. And he became bigger and bigger and bigger. It became so big that it dove into the lower planetary system, Garva ocean, and picked up the earth planet on his task. The entire planet was picked up by this boar. Barahadev. Bashoti dashana shikhare dharani tavo lagna shoshini kalanko kaleva nimagna keshavadhrita shukara rupa jai jagadisha hari. Keshav assumed the form of a boar in order to rescue the earth planet. He appeared as a fish to Satyavrata Muni, to King Satyavrata. So he can come. Sometimes he comes directly. Dwarka se chale Gopal, Garura ke bichhare, Chakra se grahaka mari, Gajaraj ko udhare. So Dwarka se chale Gopal. He went straight from Dwarka. When Gajendra, the king of the elephants, offered prayers just when he thought that he was about to leave his body, when he was about to die, then he appeared. Gopal came directly from Dwarka, and Chakra se grahaka mari Gajaraj ko udhare. He killed the graha, the crocodile, with his chakra, with his disc, and rescued Gajendra. In this way, the Lord can appear in so many different ways. So he appeared as Lord Ramchandra. Lord Ramchandra is the Marjada Purushottam. He came to establish the Marjada, the law and the standard of following the dharma. Dharmasya glani, disregard of dharma, but now he came to re-establish the dharma, to establish the marjada of dharma. Marjada of following the scriptures, marjada of following the law and order. Therefore, Lord Ramchandra in his pastimes is very strict. He did not, in any occasion, he disregarded the tenets of the scriptures. Whereas Krishna is the Leela Purushottam. He is just performing his pastimes in order to give pleasure to his devotees and in order to enjoy the bliss of this loving exchange. Krishna doesn't care what people will think. Krishna is not concerned about the moral codes. That's the difference between Lord Ramchandra's pastimes and Krishna Chandra's pastimes. Lord Ramchandra is married to just one wife, Sita Devi. That's it. Although the Kshatriyas could marry more than one wife, but Lord Ramchandra came to establish the perfect standard, so he would not marry other women. And whereas Krishna married to 16,000 wives, not even 16,000, 16,108 queens. And at least in Dwarka he got married. In Vrindavan he didn't even bother to get married. He's dancing with a whole lot of unmarried girls and even girls, those who are married to others. But is there anything immoral? Where is the consideration of immoral with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Like if somebody enjoys his own property, can there be anything wrong in that? Now, isn't Krishna the supreme proprietor of everything and everybody? So if Krishna enjoys, then what's the harm? As it is, he is situated in everyone's heart. He is situated in everyone's heart. So he is most intimately related to everybody in any case. So if he has some dealings with somebody, what can be wrong about that? Because he is the supreme proprietor, everything belongs to. Like there is a consideration, like Krishna is dancing with the gopis. Now, what to speak of the gopis being Krishna's property? Gopis' husbands, Gopis' father, Gopis' mother, they all are Krishna's property. So Krishna in that sense is not only the husband of the gopis, but he was also the husband of the gopis. Because the word husband means a proprietor. But common people may not understand that. Therefore, Krishna's pastimes are kept little carefully. Therefore, it has been thoroughly instructed, don't delve into Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes without proper guidance, without proper understanding, because it may be confusing, it may be misleading. And that's why it's also said, Krishna's pastimes shouldn't be imitated. We won't be able to imitate Krishna's pastimes. If you want to imitate any pastimes, okay, imitate Lord Ramchandra's pastimes. Because he is the Maryada Purushottam. Imitate his pastimes because he has come to establish the proper standard. So, and that's why sometimes Lord Ramchandra's pastimes also can appear to be confusing. People sometimes question why Lord Ramchandra banished Sita Devi. It's so cruel. He banished Sita Devi. And at that time Sita Devi was pregnant. And also because some weird washerman expressed some doubts about Sita's character. And as a result of that, Ramchandra's character was questioned. The man actually said that, do you think I am like Ram? You'll fool around with other people and I'll still accept you? I'll banish you. His point was that Sita was kidnapped by Ravan. Who knows what Ravan did to her, and still Ram accepted. Already Ramchandra has taken precaution about that. Before accepting Sita, Sita was tested in fire, Agni Pariksha. And when she went through that test, then only Ramchandra accepted her. Of course, again we have to remember that these are the pastimes of the Lord. Pastimes are like a play on a stage. It's a play. Lord is playing a drama on this stage of this planet. And in a drama, there must be in drama there are various aspects that must be there. The exchange of mellows. The dramas, and mainly drama means conflict. Drama means exchange of mellows. Like there are, those mellows must be churned. Especially the secondary mellows. There are principal mellows, 5 principal mellows. Those mellows are Shanta, Dasya, Sakha, Vatsalya and Madhur. Neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental and conjugal. These are 5 principal mellows, and then there are 7 secondary mellows. Hasho, Adbhut, Bir, Raudra, Bibhatsa, Vayanak, Karun. Hasha, humor. Adbhut, wonder, surprise. Veera, chivalry. Raudra, anger. Bibhatsa, ghastly. Bhayanak, frightening. And Korun, pathos. So more these mellows are churned, the better becomes the drama. In dramas you will find humor. There's some comedians, they can't make you laugh. Then in drama there must be surprise. Surprise. The heroine is thrown from the skyscraper, and then just Superman comes and catches her midair, and everyone gets so excited. Wow! Surprise. Everybody was thinking, oh, now she is finished. She will die. She is falling on top of from the top of the Empire State Building. But Superman came just flying and Veera, chivalry. That chivalry, the hero is so powerful. The damsel in distress, the hero just goes and beats up all the miscreants who are causing trouble. 25 of them, and he alone just finishes them off. Or Rambo. And so these are and so one of them is Korun, the pathos. Lord Ramchandra is playing in such a way that people cannot restrain their tears. Their heart breaks when Ramchandra is sending Sita away. Sita didn't know that she was being sent away. Ramchandra told Lakshman that you go send Sita to the hermitage. One day, Ramchandra was passing by the hermitage on the bank of the Saraju river, and Sita expressed her delight in seeing the beautiful atmosphere of the hermitage, so beautiful garden atmosphere with huts, cottages on the bank of the river where the sages are practicing their spiritual life. So Ram told Lakshman, just take her to the hermitage because she wanted to, and just leave her there. Sita didn't know that she was being banished like that. Now does it mean that Ramchandra was cruel? No. Ramchandra was so attached to Sita. This is also his pastimes. When Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, Ram was crying like a little child. He was crying. Now, sometimes people may wonder why God is crying like that. Therefore, it is important to understand that these are the pastimes. He is playing the role. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is acting like a human being to teach the human beings how to behave, to teach the human beings what to be like. Also when Meghnad, Indrajit, brought a Maya Sita. He created a Maya Sita and brought her in front of Lord Ramchandra in his chariot, and with his sword he just cut her head off. And then Ram said, now he was so heartbroken, he said, now what's the use of fighting? Sita is dead. All this struggle was to rescue Sita, now Sita is killed. So what's the point in fighting? Ram stopped to fight. But Vibhishan told him, look, this is Indrajit's magic. He just created that illusion. It's not Sita, it's a Maya Sita, illusory Sita. Then Ramchandra said, again, how can the Supreme Personality of Godhead be bewildered like that? Well, again, it's a pastime. So Ramchandra told Vibhishan, that Vibhishan, how can one create something, an illusory form, which is exactly like Sita? So this must be Sita. Don't try to console me. Indrajit has killed Sita. Then Vibhishan reasoned with him. He said, look, what to speak of creating that illusion, actually from the sacrifice, from Yajna, the similar form can be created. You look exactly the same. But still Ram wouldn't listen. So Vibhishan said, okay, I will prove, I'll show it to you. So right there the arrangement was made to make a sacrifice. Yajna-kunda, like Vibhishan told Hanuman, get some firewood. So Hanuman got tons and tons of sandalwood for the sacrifice, just in no time. And Vibhishan made Lakshman the hota, the performer of the sacrifice. And Lakshman was performing the sacrifice. Then Agnidev came. So Agnidev appeared there from the sacrificial fire and said, tell me, what can I do for you? What do you want? I am prepared to do anything that you want. Vibhishan said, I don't want anything. I simply wanted to show Ram that how from the sacrificial fire the same form can appear. Identical form. Then Agnidev said, okay. So he said, create the form of Sita. He didn't create only one Sita, he created 8 Sitas from that fire. Then he expanded into another 108 forms, multiplied by 108. And then multiplied by another 125, 16,000. So 16,000 Sitas appeared. Looks exactly the same, with the same complexion, with the same features. Now, when they came out of the fire, they wanted to accept Lord Ramchandra as their husband, these 16,000 Maya Sitas. They were just about to accept Lord Ramchandra as their husband. Ramchandra said, look, in these pastimes I won't have more than one wife. But in the next pastimes, when I come, then I'll accept you as my wives. So they asked, where should we go? And they said that you appear as you take shelter of different kings as their daughters. And then Narakasura will kidnap you. And I will rescue you in my next pastimes, and then I'll marry you. So these are the 16,000 queens in Krishna's pastimes. So these dramas are so well enacted that there is no loophole left. Everything is perfectly organized. So this is how the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to establish law and order, and he performs his pastimes in such a way that it churns all our emotions in such a way that sometimes our heart breaks in pathos, in Karun Rush. And sometimes our blood starts to boil in Vira Rasa. And sometimes our eyes pop out of their sockets out of Ashcharya, surprise, Adbhut, a wonder. So this is how the Supreme Personality of Godhead performs his pastimes as he did as Lord Ramchandra. Hare Krishna, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Does anybody have any question?
The Lord actually churns the emotions of the devotees. So we can see similarly in the Lord as well as in the devotees also. It is said that the devotees, we know that the devotees are under the protection of the Lord. The Lord is always taking care of them in the most wonderful way. Yet when we see that devotees are in certain situations which are, when we see, as you say, it creates pathos. And both the understandings are there. Sometimes we feel heartbroken and sometimes we also have the feeling that Krishna is protecting. But we can't be generalist or philosophical all the time. So we feel the pain that they are feeling. Should we lose the faith that Krishna will protect? We can't. At the same time, we can't think that, we can't be, too philosophical that, okay, let Krishna do it and I'm not concerned.
Therefore, one has to surrender himself to the will of the Lord. Just surrender to the will of the Lord. He will protect, but sometimes his protection will come in such a way that not only the devotee will be surprised, but the whole world becomes surprised. Like for example, Haridas Thakur being beaten in 22 marketplaces. And not only beaten, but he was mercilessly beaten. One would die just from the beating of one place, one marketplace. But he is beaten up in 22 marketplaces. But he just kept on chanting. He didn't stop chanting. As if he is not affected by the beating at all. And that's what happens. Apparently he is being beaten, but it's not, the beating is not affecting him. He is not feeling the pain. So tell me, is there anything undesirable in that beating if somebody beats you up and you don't feel the pain? Huh? So what do you care about that beating? So sometimes the Lord puts us in a difficult situation, but then He rescues us. Isn't the glory of that rescue is much greater if it is in the face of a great difficulty and great danger? Right? If somebody catches you when you are just about to sleep on the floor, will anybody pay any heed to that? Will anyone think there is anything great about it? No. But if somebody throws you from the mountaintop, right? And then somebody catches you, and you just land unharmed, won't that be 1,000 times more exciting? So that's what Krishna does. Krishna puts us through difficulties or puts us through danger, but saves us from that difficulty and danger. Sometimes it can be described like Krishna's dealings with his devotees is something like the father, while playing with the baby, throws the baby on the air, isn't it? And when it happens, the baby actually becomes afraid, right? And then the father catches the baby mid-air. Then both the baby and the father start to laugh. So that is how Krishna actually deals with his devotees at times. Yes?
Like you mentioned about the concept of Daridra Narayan. People have their own self-proclaimed ideas of understanding of the Lord. So, to add to that, Maharaj, we also see that within our society also, there are many welfare, social welfare organizations. For example, Mother Teresa, she would say that in every, poor or, helpless person, she would see Jesus. So we have many, in our Vedic society we see that there were many ladies like Sati and, Gandhari who served their husbands so selflessly. They did not even care about their own well-being. So Maharaj, my question is that whereas we see that love in the form of selfless service being shown in our society, in Vedic society and community at large also. So how we can say that it is only for Krishna?
Yeah, these good qualities are appreciated. Compassion, mercy, kindness, selflessness. They're good, but they're not the best. Right? Because they're relative. You are doing something good, but are you really helping them? Like since you brought up the question of Mother Teresa, what was she doing? She was taking these poor people from the streets and feeding them. But what was she feeding them? She was feeding them beef. People who would otherwise, remain strongly, situated in the Hindu custom and remain vegetarians, they are being treated with meat. Now maybe their stomach is satisfied for the time being, but what is happening to their soul? Right? So taking care of the body is one thing, but the ultimate consideration is to take care of the soul. And another example in that respect must be given also, that when somebody is doing the benefit, must know what he is doing. Just, reacting to some immediate, response is not, or responding to some immediate perception is not always the wisest thing to do. Like, for example, say, when one gets typhoid. Say a boy, little boy got typhoid. Now when you get typhoid, the doctor says that shouldn't be given any food to him. Don't give any food, just give him the medicine. Right? Now the boy is crying. I'm hungry, give me some food. I'm hungry, give me some food. The parents, following the instruction of the doctor is not giving him food. But the neighbor says, look, how cruel the parents are. His boy is crying for food and not giving the food. And they come and give him all kinds of food. Now what happens at the end? The poor guy dies. Now is it really benefiting them? Is it really para upakar? No. So we must understand what is the ultimate solution to the problems. Before we try to benefit others, we must understand what is their problem and how to solve the problem. Right? Another example can be given. A person has committed a crime and the king has put him into the prison to rectify his consciousness and also relieve him of the reaction of bad karma. He is being punished in the prison. But somebody comes and helps him to go out of the prison. Is he really helping him? No. On the other hand, when you do the things in the right way, then everybody actually benefits. Like for example, paro upakar. So even if you consider feeding the hungry is an act of benevolence. Then you offer food to Krishna and then distribute the prasad to all the hungry people. It's not that when you serve Krishna, the hungry people starve, right? When you serve Krishna, everybody becomes satisfied. The poor and hungry people get their food. Whatever somebody needs, he gets it, because when you serve Krishna, everybody is served. Just like when the body is served, every part of the body derives the benefit. Like for example, you take the food and if the finger says, this is my food, I'm not going to give it to anybody, right? Or you take the food and say, okay, the food should be given to, and the poor look at the condition of the feet. It has become so emaciated, so you put the food to the feet. Will the feet become healthy and strong? No. You take the food, give it to the mouth gives it to the stomach, then the whole body becomes satisfied and healthy. So that is what Krishna consciousness is. You serve Krishna, everybody will be served. You love Krishna, that love will be reflected into every part and parcel of Krishna. And that's why Krishna consciousness is all perfect.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. At the beginning you were speaking about incarnations and expansions. I have the question, I'm getting confused. What is the exact definition of expansion and what is exact an incarnation? And the expansions, partial and total expansions?
No difference. Expansion, Krishna expands in his own original form. That is called his expansion, right? These expansions, each and every one is same as Krishna, no difference. But when they come down to the earth planet or material nature to achieve certain things or to establish law and order, dharma, then they are called incarnation. Incarnate. Incarnate. To come here to achieve certain mission.
So you can say that every incarnation is getting another form and every expansion is the same form as original
No,
Krishna?
it's the same. That also there are different classifications. There is Vaibhav Prakash. There is expansion of the same personality, but his complexion may be different, like in Balaram. Same Krishna, but as Balaram, he is white. Vasudev, same Krishna, same feature. Color also is the same. But there he is not displaying all his 64 qualities. As Vasudev, he is displaying his 60 qualities. Or Narayan and so forth. Then there is Prabhav and Vaibhav Vilash. So this way there are different expansions, but there is some little difference at the same time. Sometimes the form can be completely different. To achieve certain, where in incarnation, to achieve the mission in a certain way, he assumes the form according to the need. Like for example, Hiranyakashipu was given the benediction that he will not be killed by a man or an animal or a demigod or so forth. So no man can kill him, no animal can kill him, no demigods can kill him. So what to do? The Lord assumed the form of Nrsingadev, where he is neither animal nor man. Right? to defeat that condition. Okay. Or the earth fell into a dirty place. Now, in order to rescue the earth, the Lord assumed the form of a boar. The boar goes to a dirty place. So he assumed that form and rescued, in order to rescue the earth.
In the beginning of the class, you mentioned about the importance of growing up with this proper understanding of the scriptures and how those impressions are very like kind of foundation for life. So if we see in like Indian society that the very popular serial Ramayana which came up. So if we see today's, so people like it was very attractive because firstly it was like the television was new and people were basically attracted to it and they saw it in great detail. So in today's time, if you see that now the society has become so degraded, but still like this positive aspect is there that the Indian society that they have these impressions. So if we can, in regards to like preaching, if we can, kind of remind them of these things, so like people are very much attracted to Lord Ramchandra because of their watching the serial or the so if we can just remind them of this, so will that be effective?
Sure. And that's your business. To preach means to remind people what to do and what not to do. Isn't it? Do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. That's what his preaching is.
Maharaj, just a second part to my question. Like we see that Srila Prabhupada, he wrote the purports of the Bhagavatam based on the commentaries of the Acharyas. So is there a bona fide commentary on Ramayana by the previous Acharyas? Because we see that there's a lot of confusion between what is the, like there are some commentaries which are
Actually, we in ISKCON don't really delve so much into Ramayana. And Ramayana also doesn't need much of a commentary because everything is so well situated in the concept of morality that there is no need to explain. Like why, say for example, why one should be married only to one wife. Does it need any explanation? Right? Or why Ram killed Ravan? Doesn't need much explanation. But why Krishna was dancing with the unmarried girls in Vrindavan, it does need explanation. Right? So these are and of course the scriptures always has to be studied under the guidance of a qualified teacher. Any subject has to be studied under the guidance of a qualified teacher, what to speak of scriptures. But at the same time, if you accept the scriptures with simple faith, there is no need to have much of an explanation. But only when, we become complex, our thought process becomes complex and it needs explanation. Simple faith doesn't need explanation. Then you take it the way Vasudev presented it. The trouble starts when we become complex. We don't really want to accept things in a simple way. Actually, the thing is that shows, how stupid the scholars are. Because, you see, it's not that to a wise person you need an elaborate explanation. It's to an ignorant person that you need elaborate explanation, isn't it? Now, when it takes so much explanation needed for the scholars, that actually shows that they're not scholars, they're idiots. They're fools. They're ignorance. Therefore, you have to, it takes a lot of trouble to remove their ignorance actually. Their ignorance is so thick, it takes a lot of endeavor to remove it. For a simple person, like apparently he's simple, but he accepts it with faith. So who is wiser? Person who is faithless or the person with faith? The real wise person is the one with faith. Because his wisdom is that scriptures must be accepted as it is. Don't have any doubts. Therefore Krishna is also saying, Janma karma chame divyam evam javetti tattvataha takta deham punarjanma naiti mamiti Arjuna. When one understands that my birth and my activities are divine, he doesn't have to take birth again after he leaves his body. It means that those who have implicit faith, they will receive the mercy very easily. Yes, Vaishnav Charan. As I said, he came to establish the marjada of dharma. Now, are the demigods to be worshipped? Or they shouldn't be worshipped? Should they be respected? Should a respectable person be respected? Should a great person be worshipped? Yeah, so he is setting the standard. The great personalities. So you learn to worship them. There is a question at the back. Give him the mic.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Guruji, I always found some hypocritic person. They don't want to break their hypocrisy. So how can we keep away from this hypocrisy ourselves?
If you see that someone is hypocritical, then why should you go to him?
No, because of that hypocritic person, we got cheated.
Don't get cheated again. Right? Once bitten, twice shy. Once you got cheated, don't go to him again. Because he'll cheat, if you know that he's a cheat. So why go to him again? And, if he cheated you just recognize that, well, you learnt your lesson. And not get cheated again. Not only by him, not by anybody. So now you learned who is a hypocrite, who is a liar. So why should you go to a hypocrite? Why should you go to a liar? Go to a person who is honest, who is genuine. And if you approach a person like that, he'll derive the real benefit from that person. Right? Thank you. Okay, I'll stop now. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila